Hello everyone! Today I'll show you how to crochet this egg sweater, which is perfect for Easter. It's a really fun and relatively short crochet project. It takes me around 2 hours to crochet this. You'll need around 9 grams of yarn. The hook size should be 3 to 3.5 millimeters, which is 3 to 4 US hook size. The weight should be 2, which is fine. I use Schechenmeyer Bravo Baby 185 in the colors Mia, Ben, Pastel, and Flamingo. And I also use this yarn from the brand Alien Melody. I have tried yarn of weight 3 light, but I find that it creates a much more bulky sweater. So I prefer yarn weight 2 fine, which creates a smaller and also thinner sweater, which I would say is more realistic for an egg. You'll need a crochet hook of size 3.5 millimeters or 4 millimeters to compare. This one is with 4 millimeters and this one is with 3.5. And as you can see, the one with 4 millimeters is just slightly bigger, so maybe if you want to use this sweater on slightly bigger eggs, you might want to switch to a larger hook size. Scissors and a needle. I use this yarn needle, which has a dull end, but you may use whichever needle you prefer. Before we start, let me explain how we'll crochet this sweater. So we'll first start by crocheting this blue part. Then we'll crochet this brown part, which is the back part and the top ribbing. Then we'll move on to the bottom red ribbing, and finally the 2 green sleeves. Okay, let's start. First, we'll leave a bit of a tail and start with a slip knot. Let's start by crocheting a chain of 37 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 35, 36, and 37. Now that we have 37 stitches, we'll start by the first row, which is just a row of single crochet stitches. But we won't be skipping a stitch and crocheting like this. We will turn our chain. Okay, so this is the front with the V's. Now we will turn it to the back, where we can see these little notches. We'll skip this first one and head over to the second one, okay? So skip the first one and go into the second one. And create your first single crochet. Now again, go into this one and crochet a single crochet all the way down the row. If you prefer, you may single crochet normally and not into the back stitches, but I prefer it this way because then when we do the ribbon, it is very easy to see where the stitches are. And in my opinion, it's much easier to do the bottom red ribbing later on. Okay, now we're getting to the final stitches of this first row. This one might be a bit tricky, but just find the little notch, go through it, and finish off. Now, we will chain 1, turn our work, and create 3 more single crochet rows. Okay, now this are the 4 rows completed. For row 5, we will start, of course, chain 1 and turn your work, and single crochet 8 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we will do 1 decrease. Now there are many ways to decrease, but how I like to decrease is the invisible one. Insert your hook through the little V, so you pick up the front stitch, and do the same for the next stitch. So you have 2 front stitches on your hook. Now you're going to pull the yarn through these 2 stitches. Now we have 2 stitches on the hook, and we're going to pull the yarn through them. Great. And now single crochet 8 more stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Chain 1, turn your work, and row 6 is going to be really simple. You just single crochet in all the stitches. So that should be 17 stitches in total. Okay, chain 1, turn your work, and now we'll crochet 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and again do 1 decrease. So insert your hook and pick up only the front loop. Also pick up the front loop from the next stitch, pull your yarn through the 2 stitches, pull your yarn through the next 2 stitches, and continue single crocheting till the end of the row. Chain 1, turn your work, and another easy row is coming, which is just a row of single crochets. And that should be 16 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work, and now we're going to count again. And you're going to count 3 single crochets, 2, 3, create 1 decrease, so front loop, pull through 2, pull through 2, and now 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 decrease, front loop, pull through 2, pull through 2, and finish it off with 3 single crochets. This is it for the body and the front part. Now chain 1 and finish off. I usually cut the yarn around this long. We are going to need a little bit of it in the end, but it doesn't have to be too long. We will now start crocheting the back panel and the top ribbing. So first, pick up your yarn and create a slip knot. Insert your hook into the next stitch. Pull your yarn through, and now you have created your first single crochet of this row. We will going to repeat the rows 5 through 9 over here. So starting with row 5, which is single crochet 8, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 decrease, front loop, pull through, and finish single crocheting. Chain 1, turn your work, and continue with rows 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, that's row 9 finished. Before you chain 1 and fasten off, let's start with the top ribbing. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now just like with the base chain, turn your work and slip stitch into the back loops. So that's this one. If you slip stitch a bit looser, it might be a bit easier for you to then insert into your stitches. And that's the ribbing. Take the sweater, the body, fold it in half, and now slip stitch into the first 2 stitches. So now you see 1, 2, 3, 4 slip stitches. You will turn your work like this. Skip these 2 slip stitches that you slip stitch into this body and only slip stitch the top 2 stitches. And we're going to slip stitch in the back loops only. So slip stitch 1, slip stitch 2. I like to help get the stitches on my hook with my fingernails, but if your stitches are loose enough, you may not need the help of your nails. Now chain 1 and again slip stitch into the back loops, and now be careful, we're going to slip stitch in the next 2 stitches. You might think, oh, that's these 2, but no, we've already slip stitched in this one, so the next 2 are these. One and 2. Again, turn your work, skip these 2 stitches and only slip stitch into these top 2. Chain 1, turn your work, skip this one, and slip stitch into the back loops. And into the next 2. And continue this all the way around. Now that we have reached the end of this panel, we will join this panel with the other one to create a little sleeve hole right here. So crochet the slip stitch 2 and insert your hook into the first stitch, slip stitched, and another slip stitch, and continue as you have, slip stitching into the top 2, chaining 1, turning your work, slip stitching 2 and 2, and just repeating this all the way around. This is the final row of ribbing. We won't go back down. We will, as I did, chain 1 and cut a bit more of the yarn because we're going to use it to stitch the end closed. So take your needle, thread your yarn through the needle, and let's look at these ends. So you should see 2 V's on each side. We will take our needle, thread it, through the V, taking only from this side the back loop, from this side the front loop. And again, do the same one more time and tighten. And then from this side, we'll take the front loop and from this side the back loop. And again, do the same thing once more. But before tightening the loop, thread your needle through it to fasten it. Now, just thread your needle through a stitch so the tail of the yarn is on the inside. There we go. And we have the body with the top ribbing finished. Now, let's sew the sides together. So we will first turn our work inside out, and using this tail, which is the tail from our base row, we will thread our needle, and now we won't stitch this close fully because we need that armhole. But what we will do is, you can see a pattern here. You see a row like this, and then these two notches, and then the row notches. So we will stitch one row, notch, and one row, and finish here. So 2 rows. Now you may stitch this together however you please. There's no right or wrong as long as it is closed. Just continue from one side to the other, remembering to stop at this second notch. Just do the same stitch again. Pull your needle through the loop and tighten it. Now let's turn it so the right side's out, and we can continue with the bottom ribbing. Okay, we'll do the bottom ribbing exactly as we did the top ribbing, except with more stitches. So I like to start on the side where I haven't stitched it closed, so that's this one. Insert your hook into one of the stitches. Now take your yarn. You don't have to leave that big of a tail, and create a slip knot. Pull this knot through and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, turn the chains, skip 1, and slip stitch into the next 4. 2, 3, 4. Then slip stitch in the next 2 stitches. 2. Turn your work, skip the 2 stitches, and slip stitch into the top 4 stitches. Remember, back loops only. Chain 1, turn your work, slip stitch 4 in the back loops, slip stitch in the next 2 stitches, turn your work, slip stitch 4, and repeat all around. Now when it comes to the final ribbing, the final stitch, the final row, you are going to slip stitch here, and also into this one where you first started with your chain. Turn your work and finish by slip stitching into these top 4 stitches. Chain 1 and cut off roughly here. So again, you have something to sew the ends closed. We will thread our needle and stitch it closed just like we did on the top ribbing. So you see the 2 rows of V's of the stitches. So you start here in the back loop, coming out from the front loop. Do that one more time. Now you move down to the next stitch, again picking only the 2 ones closest to each other. Move one down, pick up these 2, and move to the final stitch where you will repeat this once more, and finally pull your needle through this loop that you created and pull through to the other side like this. Now we have our whole body, and we will start working on the sleeves. Grab your hook and yarn, create a slip knot, and for now you'll just have to follow my instructions for where to place your stitches. So we will start on the side where we didn't sew the ends together, so that's here. Your first stitch will be placed into this stitch that's still from the body where we single crocheted 4 rows. Pull your yarn through, pull through the 2 loops, and you've created your first single crochet. We will do 10 more single crochets. So pull the tail through the sleeve so it won't bother us, And now we're going to place 5 single crochets on this side and 5 on this side. So you can see a pattern here. We have some ups and downs, ups and downs. We will start with this notch right here. Put your hook through and create a single crochet. Now put your hook into this stitch. Now into this next space, into this space, and finally into this space right here. Now turn to the other side, and we're going to start right here. Continue into this hole, then this, this one, and finally this one. Okay, that is the first row. We're going to single crochet in the round with no stopping. So just insert your hook into the first stitch that you created. And now we're going to single crochet a column. You may stop whenever you please, whenever you like the length, but I like to do 11 rows, and I'll show you how to count them in a second. Okay, so a simple way to know how many rows you have crocheted is, we know that we have started here, so we're always going to end on this side. So this would be a row finished. Now, which row did we finish? Let's count. We have to closely examine where the sleeve starts. And I can see that with this V right here. That is the first row. And I can see all the V's here are the first row. Now we just need to count. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. So this is 5 rows. And you can clearly see this is a line, this is another line, and another line, and so on and so on. So I need to crochet 6 more rows. While crocheting, be careful to only insert your hook into this stitch and not accidentally inserting it into a stitch from the other side, because if that happens, your sleeve won't be hollow. Okay, I'm about to finish this is the base. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. I'm about to finish my 11th row, and that's the length that I want. So flatten your sleeve like this, and the last 2 or 3 stitches, single crochet them like this, chain 1, and cut your yarn. Now with the length of your yarn, cut it to the bottom ribbing, because spoilers, when tying the knot we're going to feed it through, so we have to have at least this much yarn. Now that we have one sleeve done, let's continue with the second one. Grab your hook and your yarn, create a slip knot, and now instead of putting it somewhere here, we are just going to start by putting it already on the side, right here. Okay? You can even count from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go into the 5th hole. There you go. Continue into here. Then here. Here. And finally here. This time we will put 1 single crochet in the bottom of this ribbing. As you can see, the ribbing already created a little hole here, and that's where we'll put a single crochet. And now we'll continue with this hole, this one, this one, and finally this one. Now let's go back to our first stitch. Single crochet and continue working just as before until you finish your desired length. After fastening off the second leaf and cutting off the end, we'll now take our needle and begin the worst part of crocheting, some might say, weaving in the ends. So, let's start with the sleeves. Since I'm crocheting this for an egg and there are no arms that are going to be inside these sleeves, it doesn't matter if there is a bit of the tail like this going through the sleeve. But if you do plan on putting arms through the sleeves, I would advise you to actually weave in the ends into the single crochets on the sleeves. But since I'm not, I'm going to show you how I do it. So first of all, this right here is very hard to see, but this is the final slip stitch that I did. So this is the last, the chain 1 stitch, and this right here is the final slip stitch. Now what I'm going to do is insert my needle into it like this, and then right into the hole behind it and all the way through the inside of the sleeve, and just pull your needle through. There we go. Do the same thing with the other side. Thread your needle. And this is the last chain one. This is the last slip stitch. Insert your hook inside and through the stitch right behind it, through the hole, all the way down through the sleeve and out the bottom. Now all of the ends are inside the sweater. Let's turn it inside out. You don't have to worry about the sleeves. And now we are going to make pairs. Let's start on the bottom ribbing. We have these two tails, which we will conveniently tie together with a few knots. And when we feel that it's knotted enough, we will cut off the ends, like so. This long tail is the tail from the end of the sleeve, and we are going to match it with this top right here, with this top tail right here. It's from the ribbing. Now, when tying a knot here with the sleeve end, be careful not to pull it too tight, or else your sleeve will end up scrunched. If that's a look you're going for, okay, go for it. But if you want your sleeves to be nice and straight, make sure to not pull it as tightly. It off, and now match these bottom two tails together and tie them. And cut. Do the same with the other side. So this is the long sleeve end, match it with the top end, cut off the ends, and the final two tails remain. Just knot them together like all of the others. After cutting all the ends off and flipping the sweater right side out, we're done. Thank you so much for following along, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!